So let's talk about user events. So you know when you create a React app, you can thankfully interact with the UI, right? You can click, you can move the mouse, you can do stuff like that, yeah? So I would like to present, yes, probably 2 or 3 user events. But to me, the main goal today is not about showing you the list of supported events. It's to make sure you understand how can you interact with the app from the mouse perspective, or even from the keyboard if you want. Yeah. So that's the main goal. So let me create a stateful component because I want to play with the state. Does anybody remembers how do I create a stateful component? Class, that's right. Class, track, user, events. What else? Anyone apart from Anita? Extends what? React.component, right? And then, do you remember which methods do we have to declare here? Constructor. What else? What do we put here? Super, that's right. And then what else? Render. And then here we return a piece of HTML, right? Hello, sexy component, happy face. Yeah? There's a basic stateful component. We'll create a state in a minute. And then, of course, we can just display that component. So you've been doing that starting from task number 7, I believe. So this is the state of the journey. I'm sure everybody has created at least a component. All right, so if we got that, then you got the title. That means it works fine. So I would like to create, first of all, a button so whenever we click on the button, we present a message, something like that. Yeah? So I got my button. Please hit me hard. So does anybody know how can I capture the click event? That's right, Florin. So in pure HTML code, you will rather use onClick like that, all in lower cases. But in React, look, if I start typing on click, you see, JSX attribute, capital C. Yeah? If you don't put the capital C, React will throw an error. So case is important, guys. So now, look, I'm going to create another method called do stuff for now. I have no idea the method name, so for now I do something a bit stupid. Do stuff. So now I will display an alert. Do you remember, guys? Alert. Yeah, that prompt, that message you get in the middle of the screen when you are navigating to a pirate website to watch Premier League games, enlarge your pennies, all these things. Alert. Button clicked. Yeah? Cool, fantastic. So now the question is, how do I call the do stuff method here? Like that? This don't do stuff. Like that? What will happen if I go back to the browser? Infinite loop? Andre's right. Look, because you're using the parentheses, that means just call the method immediately. Boom. See, I didn't press the button, I just refreshed the page, but because I'm calling the function immediately, boom, I show the alert. So how do we fix that? Say it again, remove parentheses, Giyun, like that. What do you think? Okay, let's have a look. All right, so if I refresh, yeah, you see the pop-up is not there anymore. So that's a good starting point. So do you think that this is going to present the pop-up when I click on the button? Let's have a look. Yes, that's good. It works. It works. So now, yeah, so that it works in this super simplistic scenario, but it will stop working very soon. Yeah? As soon as we complicate the exercise a bit. For instance, let's add state. So let me add a div called has. So did I press the button? You see? So I'm going to create the state equal button press. What's the default value? False, for instance. Yeah? Or let's talk like humans, right? No. And then what? How do I change the state here? I don't want to show an alert. I want to change the state. Can I do that? No, why not? Second? That won't do anything. Why? Correct. So Alex is proving he's actually the only person probably that has watched the workshop I told you is the most important one on the entire bootcamp. Yeah? So yes. Because I don't really like to repeat myself, guys, please watch the state workshop. This is the most important workshop on the entire bootcamp. So yes, that won't work. To update the state, you have to type this.setState, and then here you update your stuff. Yeah, I mean, so far, I'll tell you something. I'm sorry if I'm disappointing you, but I'm not doing anything new. So all these things we're doing now, I'm just repeating myself from previous workshops. Yeah, cool. Something like that. So now, how do I check whether I've pressed the button or not?
We need to check the state of the button pressed.
And how do we do that, Anita?
This state button pressed.
Apart from Anita, will this work? Curly braces, right? That's right, curly braces, guys. Will this work? That won't work. Let me show you. If I hit the button, it throws an error. Yeah? And we already explained that. The reason why it throws an error is because if you call a method following this strategy, it won't be able to access that object called this. That's messy, but that's the way React works. So if you want to be able to call this.setState, if you remember, you have to do that. That's the way it works. When you click on the button, then call a function. And by calling the function, then call this method. I'm not asking you to fully understand that. I'm asking you to remember that. Yeah? It's just slightly different. Yes, if you want to call a function after clicking a button in React, you have to follow that coding style. On click, then call a function, and then call your function here. That's weird. I'm not arguing that. That's weird, that's tricky, that's annoying. But it's what it is, right? So you have to deal with that. You have to get used to that.
So what's the difference between this and when we remove parentheses?
Yeah. So if you do that, that line won't work. The reason is tricky, and we will see that on the last week of the bootcamp. On the last week of the bootcamp, we will focus on what we call lexical dis, which is a classic question on a job interview, what lexical dis is. We will learn that, but we will learn that on the last week, because this is one of the most complex aspects of JavaScript. Yeah? However, today you may have to deal with it, even if you don't really understand how it works. So for now, try to do that. I know some people said, I want to understand everything. Yeah? To me, that's not the way you will succeed in life, at least not as a developer. Sometimes you need to take assumptions. Yeah? You need to take assumptions. And this is one of these. When you call a function, that's the coding style you have to follow. If it any helps, we will shortly talk about hooks. You may have heard about hooks. So hooks represent a new way of coding with React to simplify this mess. Yeah? So with hooks, it will be easier to deal with this type of problems. And then you may be thinking, oh, if there is a simpler way, why are we following the long way? Very easy, because many companies are still following that coding style. So you are likely to face a problem where you have to deal with a class, with this, with blah, 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 blah. So I want you to be ready for that scenario. Yeah?
What does console log this inside the render return? It's like, what does a return console log this inside the?
So you want to do a console log of lexical this?
No, in the render.
In the render, yeah, that's the same. So, I mean, we can try that. We can try that. Back to the previous exercise, to the previous style. Yeah.
Console log.
No, I'm not going to do console log. I'm going to add a breakpoint, my friend. Never add console logs into the code, right? So, going to sources, and now, yep. So this is my component, right? So, if I add a breakpoint, look, if I refresh the page, guys, where can anybody tell me the execution order? Just look, and then the free breakpoints. Just after refreshing the page. I'm not going to hit the button. Just after refreshing the page. 8, 18. Anything else? So Anita said 8, 18, 14, and Kaini said 8, 18. What do you think, guys? So can you tell why you disagree with Anita? That's right. You don't press. I said I'm not going to press the button. If I don't press the button, this function is not going to be executed. Let's try that. Thankfully now the breakpoints are working. So yeah, 8, that's the constructor, first of all, fantastic. Now 18, and that's it. Once I press the button, what will be the execution order, guys, when I press the button?
Is it
14, 8, 18. So that's fish. And then Andrea said 14, 18. Anyone? So Kaini, you said yes, 18? 14, 18. So you agree with Andrea and Alex. Yes. So you are right, guys. You are right. The thing is, fish, the constructor only runs once. So it doesn't matter what you do with your component. It doesn't matter where you click. It doesn't matter anything. That line will just initialize the component once. So that line will never happen again, will never run again, obviously, unless I refresh the page. Yeah?
So when you click on the button,
Yep.
the line doesn't run.
The what?
When you click on the button,
Yep.
it doesn't run.
So you didn't get the last bit.
8
Doesn't run. No, that's right. It never runs. It never runs. That's the constructor.
What is it running? I thought you said that was the first thing to run.
It's the first if I refresh the page. Before, because I refreshed the page, you're right. Then that was the very first thing. You're right. But then later on, that piece of code will never run again. Yeah? So that's an important principle of React lifecycle. So now, let's see if Andrea, Alex, and Kaini are right. I will press the button. So then, you see, that's what I was mentioning before. Because we are following this coding style that I told you is wrong, then it doesn't really work. It doesn't really work. And once again, it doesn't work. Look, it says, cannot read property set state of undefined. In other words, this is undefined. This is undefined because of a reason that I'm not going to explain now. We'll see on week number 8. But once again, to keep the long story short, just remember that that's the way you should invoke it. And if you do that, yeah. Now, interestingly enough, you see, I'm refreshing the page, and as you can see, Google Chrome is not stopping on my breakpoints anymore. Do you remember, guys? And that will happen in a job interview, and you will remember me forever for not paying attention now. What do you have to do whenever that happens? First thing is, and of course, at the same time, you explain what you're doing. You can say, hey, under my point of view, there should be a breakpoint on line number 8, so the code should stop here. However, Google Chrome is ignoring me because it's clearly ignoring me. Let me go incognito and let me try again and see if sometimes it works. Yeah, sometimes. So let me turn incognito. Once again, you go to sources and then app.js, and then you click on number 8 and number 18 and number 14, and then you refresh again. You see, still not working. Still not working. So, what's the next step? What will you do next? Add debugger, yeah. If you are using, let me give you another advice, a bit beyond the scope of this session. Personally, I will recommend you, if you are a Google Chrome fan, I would like to recommend you to play something with a different web browser. So if that happens, you can tell the employer, I'm convinced that the code should stop on line number 8. And to prove my theory, you know what I'm doing now? I'm opening Safari. I would like to open a different browser. So if it works in Safari, that means there is a problem with Google Chrome. Yeah? So that's pretty much the same thing. Safari, similar to Google Chrome. So inspect. And now the user interface is a bit different, so you have to get used to that. I think instead of sources, Safari calls that. Can I zoom that? Yes, I can. So Safari calls it debugger, I believe. So now I can open a file, app.js. You see, I'm literally doing the same thing, but with a different web browser. So now I'm literally repeating the same thing. Yeah? So let's see if now Safari stops on line number 8 after refreshing the page. That's, what is that? All right, so, 139. I mean, it's sort of working, but it's showing me very weird code here, right? That was a bit unexpected. Say it again? Yes. Yes, main chunk. Yeah, so this is because the browser performs something called source maps. So, but that's a bit weird, right? To be honest, I wasn't expecting that. Let me try to. Okay, so let me try again. Here you go. So after refreshing, at least it works. Yeah. But anyway, I hope you agree with me. You see, now Safari is not displaying anything because it's stopping on line number 8. However, Chrome is ignoring me. You see the difference, yeah? So there is something wrong with Google Chrome. If you don't have any Safari, try with Firefox, try with a different browser. And if you give up, remember, you can add the debugger keyword on your code. So the debugger keyword will force Google Chrome to stop, yes or yes. But that feels a bit too extreme. That's like the last action. Yeah, that's the last action you can take. All right, so now, look, line number 8, and then line number 18. So we'll display something. So as soon as I press on the button, it will stop on line number 14. Let's have a look. Here you go. You see, line number 14. So now, because we call set state, guys, do you remember what's the consequence of calling set state? Re-render. Re-render, correct? Because if we change the state, it's because we want to change the user interface. We want to send a new message to the user. How do we do that? Well, by just re-rendering. So if we play again, you see, pop. Now we go to 18. Hopefully you can even hover over variables. So can I do that? Yes. You see? So if I hover the variable button press, the browser will spoil the value the user is going to receive in a second. Yeah? So, and you see, did I press the button? Yes. Cool. So yeah, so that's about, oh, look, now Google Chrome is working, yeah, after 5 minutes. Don't ask me why it took 5 minutes to pick the breakpoint. That's too much for my body today. So, yeah, that's the way you can update the state. What if in reality, let me present you a different problem. I want to build a log system. So I want to trace all the events triggered by the user. Yeah? For now, just click. So I want to have a log. Whenever I click on the button, button click. If I click again, button click. If I click again, button click. I want to have a log with how many times the user has clicked on the button. Many companies, they do that. Imagine a company setting a new button. For instance, maybe you've noticed on the Codery platform, there is a try my luck button on top of training. At the moment, I have no idea if anyone is using that functionality. So I could add a tracking system to create an event in the database to know how many times you are clicking on the button. Because if no one is clicking on the button, maybe the button is pointless, so I can't remove it. Or if the button is very popular, I don't know. Yeah, you know. Yeah, this is just beyond the scope of coding. This is about analyzing users' behavior. The bigger the company you'll end up working for, the more likely they are to look after these things. Yeah? Some companies, they do like eye tracking. Have you heard about eye tracking? Where they got like special classes. So they know they got experimental users, so they know where the users are looking on the screen. And that's very convenient because if they want to highlight a particular article or image or video, exactly. Well, this type of thing, yeah? So let's do something not that sophisticated, but I want, rather than knowing if the button has been pressed or not, look, I want to have a list of logs. So whenever I click on the button, I want to actually add a new log. So let me rename the method to add log. And now let's see how can we add a new string with button click, something like that, to the array of logs. Well, first of all, look, I can create a variable. Give me the list of logs, that's the first thing. And then how can we add a new log to that array, guys? Correct. Logs.push, you remember? With push you add new elements, and then button clicked, for instance. Yeah? Of course, we can talk about timing and things like that, but let's keep it simple. So now, how do we update the state? Can we do that? I want to update the logs. What's the new value? Logs. That's right. So Alex is suggesting to use a shorthand. Remember, if the key and the value are the same, logs and logs, yeah, you can simply, in modern JavaScript, you can do that. Yeah, that's equivalent. When the key and the value are the same. Yeah. All right. And do you remember how can I destructure that? Like that? Yeah, that's also right. So remember this pattern, we refer to it as object destructuring, and this pattern, we refer to it as object shorthand. Yeah? Two powerful methods of modern JavaScript. So now the tricky question. I got a list of logs. I may have 1, 2, or none, or 10. Yeah, I don't know. So anyone apart from Alex can tell me how can I loop over the list of logs and display them one after the other? Here. Dot map. That's it?
And display them.
And the what?
And display them.
Yeah, I want to display them. Anyone knows how to loop over a list of elements? I mean, you've done that already, right? That's task number 11, conflicts, or 10, or 12, yeah? You just iterate over a list of movies, right? That's the same thing. This is what, Andrea?
Is date logs dot map
Yeah,
open parentheses
yep.
log arrow function
And then can we use a div? And then what do we put here?
log.
Just the log, right? Will that work? That's right. If we run that, oh, now Chrome, let me try, actually, let me ignore Chrome, guys. It's being a bad guy today. Let me go to Safari straight away. So let me get rid of the breakpoints for now, and let me see if it works. Log is not defined. Let's have a look to this error. Log is not defined on line number 21. So if we go back to line number 21, you're right, because we are trying to use a log variable, but because we forgot to surround the whole expression with curly braces, yeah, that's a bit weird. But look at what happened when I do that. You see, this .state.logs map, that means I want to display each individual log on my user interface. So, back to Safari. Here you go. So if I refresh the page, if I press on the button, that's cool, right? So we can definitely track user events. Can anybody tell me what that warning, red warning means? Tiny?
So when you use map method, you need to
A key where? Here?
no, inside of D.
Inside here?
No, inside of D.
Here?
Yeah, that.
Key, yeah? If you remember, guys, the key is a special attribute in React. We have to add a key attribute whenever we loop, whenever we use map. Every time you use map, you have to use key. Yeah? They play together. Why? Because thanks to that key, React will be able to track all your elements and sort them if necessary, redisplay them, performance, blah, 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 blah. Yeah? So we need it. But now the point is, we need something unique here. So what unique value can we use on the key?
The index.
The index. That's a good point, Andrea. Look, is the log message unique? It's not, because at the moment, the text is the same. If I click 3 times, the log message is the same, button click, yeah? So I cannot trust that string as a unique key. That's not right. However, yeah?
Here's what you just said. The whole sentence. The whole sentence will be
Starting from what?
from long message. So
Yeah, so React needs a key. And the key, that whatever you put here, should be something unique. It doesn't matter. It could be a number, a string, it doesn't matter, but it has to be unique. So do we have any unique piece of text for each log, fish? No, we don't. We don't, because that piece of text is the same at the moment. Yeah? If you click 3 times, the log message is the same. Button click, button click, button click. So that's not a valid key. Actually, I mean, we can try that, guys. We can try that. Let's try to use the log message as the key. And let's see what happened. So back to Safari. Here it is. If I refresh, all right, so no errors for now. If I press on the button, still okay, but I believe, I'm not 100% sure, I believe if I click again, React will throw an error, because it will say, hey, you are adding a second element, but that key is already there. Look, I was right. Look, warning, encounter 2 children with the same key, button click. You see, that's literally what I was referring. So you cannot do that. In some cases, if you are dealing, for instance, with a list of users, yeah, when we display the results of a coding challenge, I can use your, for instance, your email, because your email is unique. or your user ID on the database. So definitely in real life, in many situations, you have proper IDs. But in this particular case, unfortunately, we don't have any ID. However, what Andrea was suggesting is, when you use map, you can pass a second argument, which is the index of the log. So can anybody figure out what's the value associated to the first index? 0, that's right. And on the second element, 1. So that number is unique. Yeah, that number is unique. So, look, boom. Yeah. So now, if we try again, first one, okay, and I'm not expecting any error as soon as I click again. So now, React is super happy, is super excited about my development skills. Yeah? That's definitely the best way. FYI, if you read the documentation out there, blah, 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 React is not a big fan of using indexes. So the message React tells you is, if you have any identifier, like user ID or the email or a date or something, use it. Just use the index if definitely you don't have any alternative. And that's a good example. I don't have any alternative apart from the index. Cool. Any questions so far?
Can you use another method besides .push to act, the ones that person has to.
Can you use any other method apart from push? Unshift. What is unshift doing? Exactly. Push this appends the element at the end of the list. Unshift, however, prepends the element on top of the list. Yeah? So yeah, you can use that. You could use concat as well in a slightly different way. Yeah. So once you start working with JavaScript intermediate on the Codere platform, you will find the power of arrays. Yeah? For now, let's keep it simple. Let's just use push. So obviously that makes sense when we deal with the click event. You see, fine, all good, fantastic, no problem at all. But let's present a different type of user event. So for instance, let's track user hovering. I want to know if any user is hovering my button. So look at this sexy method, on mouse enter. On mouse enter, and that's pretty much the same thing. You see? So now, even if I don't have to click, just by hovering the button, it will add a new lock. Let's see if it works. Look, I'm not clicking, I promise. I'm just hovering. Oh, you see? Of course, if I click, it works as well. So from a UX point of view, even though that works, do you see any glitch?
Why do you want to know if people are hovering?
No, that's a separate story. You may want to know if people is hovering. So for instance, Amazon a few years ago, they introduced a mechanism to zoom pictures. Yeah? You want to buy something, alkaline batteries, and they want to see if users were zooming the images to give you like an ultra high definition version. So yeah, definitely you may want to do that, right? But ignoring the reasoning behind, just from a messaging point of view, do you see any issue?
It's not button click, it's button click.
Correct. If you log that, eventually, if I check the logs, I may say, oh, users are clicking a lot on the button. But in reality, I didn't click at all. I'm just hovering. So let's change the message. I mean, that message is fantastic if I actually click, but if I just hover, I want to log a different message. So let's pass, I'll tell you something. If this is as simple as passing a message here, like, or element hover, or on mouse enter, to be more precise, and on click. Yeah. So now, can anybody tell me what do I have to change here to complete this exercise?
The parameters for an function.
Correct. And how we call it, Andrea? Message. I like that. And anyone apart from Andrea? What else?
Number 13, line number 13.
Line number 13. What do we do here, Chuck?
Inside the parentheses, button click.
Yep.
Has to be changed to message.
Yeah, you agree on that? Easy, right? So now our function add_log is more dynamic because it supports different types of user events. Let's have a look. So first of all, hover. And now click. Boom. Yeah, much better. Yeah, that's super cool. Can we also track not just when the user joins the element, also when he or she leaves the element? How we do that? On mouse leave, I love that, Rochelle. Yes. On mouse, I mean, look, if you are curious, you got many events, right? So you are more than welcome to practice with all of them. But for now, on mouse leave, and that's pretty much the same thing, right? Let's just change the messaging a bit on mouse leave. And that's it. Yeah, you see? It's pretty simple, I believe. Hover, enter, leave, leave, enter, leave, enter, leave, enter, click, 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 leave. Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's the way it works. Any questions?
Have one
Yep.
question. What if we change the way we call the functions, just like how you did earlier, and this dot on mouse enter, and pass the parameter relate.
You want to do that?
Sorry, yeah, this dot add log, and then in the parentheses
Yeah.
pass the.
So we explained that already, right? So what happened, guys, in that case? From a UX, so from a visual perspective, can anybody, there are actually 2 points on the board challenge for whoever gives me the answer about what will happen if I show you my Safari web browser.
It's not going to call function.
I just want the visual result.
That's going to be something.
So will it be just the button with message, the button with multiple messages, what?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, so I'm going to back to my Safari browser, and I want you to tell me what Safari will display. Like that. You see the change, right? That's the change we've done.
This is undefined.
Undefined, I don't get that from a user point of view. I don't know what undefined means.
Maybe some
It's not going to show anything.
It's not going to show anything, so that means blank page.
error.
Error, what's the error, Anita?
I just doubt because it keeps setting the state again and again. I'm not sure.
Look at what Anita said, makes a lot of sense to me. Even if you were not right, to me, you would have passed that question because you managed to explain it. So what Anita suggested is, as we've seen before, because we're calling the function immediately, then we are calling add_log immediately. Yeah? So that will happen as soon as I refresh the page. And you may be thinking, all right, so does that mean that by default, without touching the button, we will have an on-mouse enter event? Maybe, I'm not against that. However, do you remember, guys, what happened when we call set state? Re-render, that's right. Because we re-render and we call the function immediately, we go back to add_log. So we are adding a second message. But we set the state again, so we re-render. Can you see there is an infinite loop? Eventually, React will take control on the situation because React will stop trusting you, right? So Anita is completely right. It throws an error. Maximum update depth exceeded. Yeah, look, because React, they are used to dealing with these problems. That can happen, this can happen, that's a very polite, very British way of telling you what you did wrong. That can happen maybe, just 100% chances, when a component repeatedly calls set state instead blah, 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 blah. React, blah, 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 blah. So yes, that's clearly the problem.
Why now it works?
Second?
Why now it works without calling an anonymous function? Why now?
No, it doesn't.
Why now this is not undefined?
Why now this is not undefined?
Before it was undefined.
No, it wasn't the same example. It wasn't the same. Before it was undefined, because we did that. We created a reference to the function, but now we are explicitly calling the function. It's a different scenario. So now this is okay. Now this is okay. So technically speaking, that's okay. The problem is we're calling it infinite times. Yeah, that's why it doesn't work. So once again, remember to follow this syntax.
Is this same as referring, like this dot add log, is it same as creating an anonymous function?
I don't want to make it more complicated, Anita.
Okay.
Go, if you're curious, create a travel machine and travel to the future to the 8th week of the bootcamp, and then we'll show all the details in there. Cool, sorry about that. Anyway, you get 2 points, right? Because I really like your answer on that question. Cool. All right, so, I mean, guys, that's pretty much it. Just a final question. We're talking about buttons, but can I change the button with something else? Like, can I do a div here? Yeah, and can I add a class name? And can I call it Kiny? So can I go to my app.css and then can I do .kiny? Kiny, what's your favorite color? Salmon. And then can I do padding 30 pixels and width 200 pixels and height 300 pixels? Can I do all these things, guys? Maybe the class name is a bit unfortunate given the message, right? But, it works, right? And if I click on the button, it's at the bottom, but, so, yeah, with React, it doesn't really matter if you have a button or an image or a div, you can attach events to any element. Anything else?
About something to word, like taking information because of the button. So like when you use like target. If that's in the scope.
Yeah, so that's a different story. In this particular case, when you click a button, when you hover a button, that's it, you click, you hover. It is true that in other scenarios, and we will do a workshop about that probably towards the end of the week, we want to extract some information about, okay, yes, I click here, but I want to get more details. So for instance, I may be interested on knowing the exact pixel where my cursor is. And I want that. Yeah? Do you remember on the CodeDB platform, we got tooltips. So when you hover a button, we show you a tooltip, literally more or less where the cursor is. Yeah? Or when you type on an input, obviously you want to know what the user is typing. Yeah? So in some cases, we will be interested on extracting information about the event. Yeah? But we will see that later on. Yeah? So just to recap, we've created a new stateful component with a basic state. First of all, it was just a string, but then we move it to an array of logs. So then we've learned, first of all, how to link with an on-click event. So when we click on the button, yes, remember to get used to this weird syntax. Yeah, parentheses, arrow function, and then boom, you call the function you are interested. Yeah, and then as part of that function, using object destructuring, we can get whatever the state was. So then we can modify it. Okay, that was the state. I got, for instance, 2 logs. I'm clicking on the button, so let me push that message and now change the state. Because we change the state, React will re-render the entire thing, and as a side effect, using map, it will display the new event at the very bottom. If instead of push we use unshift, you will see its message is displayed at the very top. You see? That's the difference. Anything else?
If you have a margin.
Margin?
Yeah, and then if you hover on the margin.
So what Kiny is asking is, if we got a margin, What's your favorite number, Kaini?
100.
Say it again?
150.
150? Is that actually your favorite number? Favorite number used to be smaller than that, like 3, 4. You know? Okay, I respect that. I respect all these things, guys. So, look. Let me try to find, I'm not an expert on Safari, but let me try to highlight the element we are looking for. I'm sure there was a way to select an element. Obviously the result. 160? Command Shift. All right. So Command Shift C. It does nothing on my side. It does nothing, Kaini. Trust me. All right. Anyway, that's all right. That's all right. Yeah, I'll just need like 20 seconds to find the information I'm looking for. All right. So you see, boom. That's it, right? That's it. So let me zoom it out a bit. So you see, my box is on the left-hand side, but that orange bar essentially represents the margin, I think. Yeah, it has a weird margin on the right, but anyway, so all the orange or salmon, the big bar, that's the margin of the box. So what Kaini was asking is, do you think, guys, if I hover the margin, so if I put my mouse on the right-hand side of the screen, will it register the event? Yes or no? Why not, Florin? So in this case, you are right, but you didn't get the job because you were unable to defend your theory. The margin is, technically speaking, outside of the box. Yeah? From a box model point of view, the box ends on the border. So content is inside, padding is inside, border still inside, but margin is outside. In other words, you see? If I hover, if I put my mouse here, hello, I'm trying to mouse over, nothing happens. But now, look at the padding. You see the padding? So if I put my mouse in the padding, so literally in the border of the box, you see? Because the padding is considered part of the box. Okay? You can think about that. So padding, so this is the content. So this is your bedroom. That's a stupid example. So the content is your bed. The padding is the space between the bed and the walls. The border are the walls. But the margin is the space between your house and the house of your neighbor. It's not part, it doesn't belong to you actually.
Is the border the last?
The border should be within. We can try that, guys. Let's have that. Yep.
So border is the last element of the
I
box.
think so. Look, if my theory is right, once again, guys, don't be afraid of saying I don't know. But always, when you say I don't know, the next thing is let's figure out. So I believe the border is still part of the box. The borders are your walls. So your walls belong to you, right? So to prove my theory, I will be gentle here. So I'm going to hover just the border, the blue bar. If my theory is right, I should get a mouse enter event. Here you go, you see? And if I click, the same thing. You see, I'm clicking on the border and it works. But if I do the same thing here, yeah, nothing really happens, yeah? Nothing really happens. Anything else? No? Cool, that was it. Thank you, guys.